Hi friends, today we're going to make a cityscape out of newspapers. Now we're going to choose to use newspapers because the news happens in the cities. If you don't have newspapers, you can use magazines. Just make sure to use the word part of the magazines. Now I'm looking through my newspaper to find parts of the newspaper that have lots of words. So I'm skimming through and I'm looking for, oh look, there's columns of newspapers. I can make nice buildings out of that. So I'm going to choose that, and I'm going to tear that out. And that looks like an interesting thing to make a building out of, so I'm going to tear that out. I'm just looking for different parts that I can use for buildings, and I'm going to cut them out, and I'm going to make them into the shapes of buildings. I'm going to have some tall buildings, some short buildings, and some squatty buildings, some square buildings, some buildings with triangles on top. All different kinds of shapes of buildings. Once I get my buildings, I'm just going to arrange them on the paper in the way I like them. And I'm not going to glue them down yet. I'm just going to arrange them around. Once I get them arranged in the way I like them, then comes the part where I'm going to color them. I'm going to take another piece of paper underneath. It doesn't have to be newspaper, but I just had a piece of newspaper. And I'm going to use my markers. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to outline each building with my marker. Now I'm going to use the wide side of my marker. These markers have a thin side and a wide side. I'm going to use the wide side. I'm going to outline the marker with the white side all the way around. And I'm going to use only one color per building. And then I'm going to make windows. And I'm going to try to make each building just a little bit different. So this building is going to have windows that are squares, or rectangles, I should say. And I'm going to go all the way down. And I discovered an easier way to make my rectangles, so I'm going to go with that. Then I'm going to put that building aside and I'm going to move on to my next building. And I'm going to pick a different color this time. For this building, I think I'm going to pick green. And I'm going to outline it. Now, if you notice, it has these white lines in between because I used it on I cut it out differently, so it's got these nice white lines in between, spaces I should say, and so I'm going to use those as an artistic part of my building. I'm going to use those spaces. And I'm going to make my windows horizontal to kind of make those spaces stand out. Put that aside and move on to my next building, which is a different color. And I just want you to watch here. This building is kind of on an angle, so I'm going to make my windows go on an angle too. I'm going to trace around the edges. And notice how I'm taking my time to make sure everything looks really nice. And these windows are going to be on an angle because it's a really modern building. And I just go on and on with all the different buildings. Once I have all of my buildings done, it's time for me to arrange them. And I'm not going to glue them down until I have them arranged in a way that I like them. Now remember, my paper is the horizontal way. the long way because this is a landscape. And I'm going to decide where I like my buildings and how I like them. And I'm going to overlap some because it is a city. So I'm going to make sure that I overlap them. And then I'm going to glue them down once I have everything arranged the way I like it. Because I want this to look nice and neat because this is an art project. And it counts. The way it looks really does count. Because we want it to look visually pleasing. So I'm going to put a couple dots. This is kind of a different glue. It's not a glue stick, so it's kind of messy. If you have a glue stick, I would suggest putting glue all over it to make sure it lays down nicely. Now, I'm not going to put the overlapping buildings on yet. First, I'm putting the first row of buildings. And then I'm going to put my overlapping buildings on next. As you can see, I'm just gluing away. So I didn't put that blue building down yet. You can see I made kind of a messy job with that. Ah, look, my glue stuck together. I told you it was kind of messy glue. But I fixed it. Then I put my blue building, and I kind of overlapped it a little bit on that black building. Then I'm going to put my pink building right over. That's how I overlapped them to make them look like they kind of had depth, just like the city of Chicago does. And there you have it. Voila, my city of Chicago.